Cool. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Techstars Startup Week in Dublin, which is taking place all this week. And we have an amazing group of women and men. And for this weekend, we had 19 ideas pitched yesterday, 18 from women, and one very brave man pitched his idea. And today on Saturday, we have 13 ideas being worked on. 13 teams being formed, and they're working on the idea. And the pitching session will be tomorrow at 4. And at the moment, we have David, who is the one of the Techstar ecosystem builder, a goat, should I say, for Dublin. We were supposed to have him yesterday in our opening event, but we missed him and everybody was asking about him. So we said we're gonna do this Zoom session to just get him here to tell about a little bit about Techstars in Dublin and the impact that it has over the years. Thank you, David. Take it over.
Cheers, Leila. Thanks for that intro. I don't think I can claim that title, but yeah, it's cool to be part of it, and delighted to hear that things are going so well so far. And sorry I can't be with you. I'm very, very disappointed. I can honestly say that. So I guess we're chatting to all of you who are part of this startup weekend right now that's happening in Dublin, and it's very exciting because from our perspective, looking at this, we've seen Techstars Startup Weekends grow over the last few years and maybe the last decade or so, where they started in little hubs and in little spaces. And I remember some of the weekends were maybe only 30 people or so, maybe 25 in different places, all dotted around Ireland, which was really interested over in Wexford and so, where there were just little small groups. So it's cool to see so many people really engaging with it. And Leila, you're part of the history of Startup Weekend. You've been through the process. You've gone on the Friday. You've had the nerves of pitching an idea and going through and building a team, and what I would call, and what people are going to experience today on Saturday is this mentor whiplash, where they're going to get ideas from amazing mentors like Dr. Roisin Lyons and maybe Dr. Colin Keogh and all the others who are taking part, who've been through this process and are living this kind of innovation, entrepreneurship life. And they're going to hear things and they're going to be told, this is the way to do it, and this is the way to do it. And really at the end of it, you're going to have to make that decision for yourself. So your neck's going to be a little bit sore. And then finally on the last day, kind of going ahead and pitching it. And it's amazing to see what you've done, even just if we're talking about a little bit of history, from being part of that and then actually developing out your own community and really pushing forward. I'm looking at the work that's gone out the last few months and over the last year in terms of even developing what this weekend is, and pretty spectacular. So well done on that to you and your team.
Thank you.
And I think that's something that's really exciting, because we're going to see people out of this event. And I know you're not already finished it yet, but I'm already kind of going, I wonder who's going to take this next step and who's going to look at maybe a vertical and say, well, so for me, it was all about sustainability and education and that type of focus, and student-led startup weekends, because we wanted the students involved. And, I'm an educator at heart, so I can't help that. I love that side of the house. But there's so many different areas now to look into in terms of deep tech and health and all of those spaces where potentially people can go, do you know what? I'd like to run an event like this. I'd like to be part of the community. And maybe they don't run their own particular one at first, but I always encourage them to get involved and even to volunteer to be part of maybe running something like this next year with your team or whoever is leading it out. So I think that's what's been very cool to watch, is that the little stepping stones of where it started out with the likes of Gene Murphy, who is now over in the States, who kind of brought me on board. And then from getting involved with him, I was running a few. We ran about, I think, 15 or so startup weekends in Ireland and across Europe. And then people who were taking part in mine, they started running their own, and I got to step back a little bit. And that's going to be fun for you, I think, as well, Ella, to watch it too. So from being part of so many and being a Techstars facilitator for different events over in Barcelona and other places in Europe, the main pieces that you should take away from something like this is really to think of it as a learning experience. You know, this is your opportunity to really immerse yourself into something really exciting. You know, you've had this idea in your head, or maybe you don't have an idea, but you've joined a team and they're running with the program and you're testing your skills. So there's a couple of areas here to look at. One is your own knowledge and your interest, and kind of exploring those areas of interest and kind of going, you know what, I want to test this out. Maybe I'm not a designer, but for this weekend, I'm going to test out these skills, building out a slide deck, maybe building some a little prototype or whatever it might be for whatever product or service you're creating. And then the other thing as well is, you know, making sure that you're connecting with people. Like, this is the biggest takeaway. And I posted that on LinkedIn before. I was like, just connecting with all of your speakers, all of your mentors, all of the community team, yourself, Leila, and others, and everyone who's taken part in it, because you're all in it together. You're never going to lose this connection that you're building up by immersing yourself into a startup weekend. Everyone you talk to, when you travel the world now, when you're in the States, when you're in Australia, wherever it is, these startup weekends are happening all over the place. When you meet someone and you say, I've been part of a startup weekend, and they go, hey, I have too. And you remember the pain of the Saturday evening when you realize the time is ticking away and you're going to have to pitch the next day and all these things. People get it, people really understand, and they're very open to it. So you've got a little passport now to travel the world and meet people and have a chat with them and have a bit of fun, you know. So that's really cool. So you're testing your knowledge and your passions and your skills, and really exploring and allowing yourself to test things outside of maybe what your comfort zone is. I think is really important. So, you know, something that maybe you're not doing your day-to-day job, why not try it in this space? Testing the skills that you already have is always really useful as well, and then that connection piece. So these are the kind of key takeaways, and this sounds simple, but it's not easy, and sometimes it can be a bit daunting, especially on a Friday when you see so many people and everyone looks like they know what they're doing. I can guarantee you everyone's feeling the same way. And then tomorrow, so there's the pitching, of course, but before that, you're going to get this mentorship piece. And what I would do is just make sure that you're soaking it all in, and don't be afraid to be a little bit critical of what you're hearing as well. You know, really don't feel like you have to take absolutely everything and do absolutely everything. Make sure that you're doing what you can and what's useful for your team and what's relevant for that. The pitching then is kind of like a nice piece maybe to touch on, because I think this is a part where it kind of makes and breaks your startup weekend in terms of, like, you know, that final piece. And I always recommend, if you can get even a little prototype together, right? And you might look around your team and you go, hey, we don't have any technical people. Get some pens, get some paper, draw your paper-based prototype, if whatever it is, but have something that's somewhat tangible that you can show people, because I think that's really so important. You know, you're going to have these judges, you were saying there, Lily, you've got like 13 teams potentially. Hopefully all of those are there tomorrow, but at least you're going to have 10 who are going to be pitching at the very minimum. And judges are going to, like, that's a long piece to go through, to be listening to so many ideas and trying to remember. So if there's something there that they can touch and handle, and you can pass it up, and they can like, you know, get a sense of it, or, you know, visualize it, that is going to be gold dust for everyone on that side of it. So really, that's where we're coming in from. You know, we've run then the startup weeks, which might be interesting for people, and we ran 2 of these. We ran them back in 18-19, where we had about the last one, we had about 6,000 people over the course of a week. It was a Techstars Startup Week, and it was a celebration of entrepreneurship, innovation, and others. So we had people who actually are mentoring at this one, like Roisin and others, who all came together with us, and we decided, look, and again, all voluntary based, to celebrate communities of entrepreneurs and innovators in Dublin and in Ireland. And we ran this over about 7-8 days. We had, I don't even know how many events we had in the end of it, 50 plus events. We had, again, like that number of 6,000 or so. I think it was more than that in the end, but we couldn't track it, of people. So there is a huge amount of knowledge in the cluster and motivation there in the city. Potentially, you know, it would be nice to see something like that run again. Looking at you, Leila, as well. Put you under a bit of pressure. You're asking me to speak, so I'm gonna put this back on you. But again, like there's I think it's so important, especially now in the current ecosystem, the current climate, these grassroots events are crucial. These are the heartbeat of everything that's going on. We see the other big sponsored, funded programs, and that they're brilliant. They're absolutely super. Look, I work for the European Institute for Innovation and Technology. We've got our accelerator programs and so on and so forth, and they have their place, and we have our place within the ecosystem. Likewise with the Irish groups, we see even with the Health Service Executive Spark Innovation programs, where we're taking clinicians out and giving them entrepreneurial skills, who are those who are working in healthcare, you know, nurses, doctors, whoever it might be, and sending them into the ecosystem. So they're going through the exact same process as what you're doing this weekend. And it's really brilliant to see. But the grassroots, volunteer-led programs that you're in right now, the Startup Weekend, this is it. This is the lifeblood of Ireland's ecosystem and the ecosystem around. And I think this is why what you're doing, that is so important, because it's so easy for people to step back and kind of go, do you know what, someone else will do it. But actually, given that time, given the effort and putting it in, like, I know the long hours and the evenings and the frustrations of running something like this. So I really take my hat off to you for getting such a brilliant lineup and the amazing support for everyone. But I think what I would say to everyone is, coming back to this point of, we're not letting you away with just this weekend. We want to see you engaging in this ecosystem as a group. Those of you who go and see this team that Leila's put together and kind of go, do you know what, I'd like to be part of that. Brilliant. You know, not every single person who's going to go through this is going to be an entrepreneur at the far side of it. Some of you might go, do you know what, right now that's not for me. That is absolutely fine. There's no issues there. But maybe some of you go, do you know, I want to join a startup, or I want to, maybe you're going to set up a startup. Brilliant. But there's so many more of you there, and there are plenty of different options and opportunities, you know, and I think this is important. So even on a basic level, make sure it's going on the CV, make sure it's going out there, make sure you're telling this story, because the skill sets that you learn, these kind of interdisciplinary skills, these transferable skills, the way to lead teams, the way to communicate in a team, when you're resolving challenges and conflict and everything that's going to happen over the course of these 3 days, where you don't, maybe your team need to get outside and go for a walk and let off the steam and maybe validate your idea and take a little bit of a break. Like, these are all like amazing things that you can bring back, even if you're just going back into your regular run-of-the-mill piece. And the last point that I'll touch on, Leila, and then I promise I'll shut up, is you're going to go back on Monday, maybe back into the normality of things. It can be a little bit blue, and you're going to have a bit of maybe this feeling of, you know, all this excitement, all this support, all of this energy from the weekend, and you're kind of going back in now what. So this is where the connection is going to matter to you. Being able to reach out to people, connect in, have a coffee, jump on a call with myself, with you, Leila, with others that are going to be there. I know Maureen was chatting yesterday, and a few of the others who are running these amazing communities all the time. Make sure you embed yourself into those communities, because that is, they're brilliant, and they're so open, and they're so warm, and they're so inviting, and they can seem, for all of us, when we're looking on the outside and we see all these posts, and the Twitter posts and LinkedIn posts and everything, and it's, oh, I can never be part of that. But you know what? Why not? I ran my first startup weekend in a little hub in the Bank of Ireland down the Grand Canal docks. Only a few people, maybe 35 or so came. I was a builder, a construction worker before this, and I was just going back in trying to change my career a little bit. And I came to I ran one of these events because I got asked to do it, and I just said yeah, and I hadn't a clue what I was doing. And honestly, like, for me, even running, it was an incredible experience to be part of it, because you're learning and you're really engaging, but that connection then afterwards really supported it. So maybe anyone who's part of this, maybe they see a little gap, maybe they see an opportunity to build their own community as well. This is perfect. So reach out to everyone, ask for the advice, and yeah, I think honestly, if I talk anymore, I'm just going to keep repeating myself, because I can't emphasize it enough how important it is. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave it there. And Leila, if you've got any questions that you think people might have, you can fire them at me, but they've probably heard enough from me at this stage.
Thank you so much, David. I think you highlight everything that's important about Startup Week and even the next step, what people should do on Monday. And I remember I was just blown away with at my first Startup Week. And when I attended it, I didn't have a clue what I should expect. And I was just blown away. I remember you pushing me to pitch that evening. I was so shy.
I
Ended up
remember.
like
I remember.
I stepped out of my comfort zone so many times that weekend. And yeah, after that, I was completely a different person. Like a seed was planted in my head, and I had that bug, and I wasn't going to let it. And I remember
So
reaching out to you. Yeah, go ahead.
on that, because I remember that conversation with you where you were a little bit unsure. You were, you had it. I mean, you were ready to go, with fairness, but so what was it that kind of gave you the kind of spark to just go, oh, I'm just going to do it? Like, because I'm curious, because you can go both ways in that. And I'm sure some people are going to experience that this weekend. So
Yeah.
what could you share with them that kind of allowed you to be able to just go, you know what, let's give this a go?
Yeah, I think it was the energy in the room, everybody was pitching. So it's like, oh, what the hell? And also the little push kind of helped to go for it. Yeah, and just, throw myself out there and pitch. And also not just the pitch, the whole experience, the feedback from the mentors, the learning from my teammates, just that team dynamic, the different skills. I learned so much that weekend. Even the work ethic, it reminded me of my days in college, and I just, I loved every minute of it. And I knew this is it. This is what I've been looking for.
Yeah, I do say, I have to say, I do like giving people a bit of a push on these. So that was really enjoyable for me. So I hope you're able to do the same this time round. It's a lot more fun when you're doing the pushing than when
I
you're
did.
being pushed.
I did a lot of push last night, and it's amazing to
Brilliant.
see how it came out. Yeah, and also about reaching out after the startup weekend, which was so important. I remember reaching out to you and like, I've gained so much from the experience of startup weekend, and I want to give it back. I want to do this in my country. How can I do that? And you pointed me in the right direction,
Yeah,
and
that was
I
very
ended up
cool.
doing so many startup weekend in Dar es Salaam, where I grew up, and we did I supported behind the scene in Zanzibar last year, so I just supported the team and showed them the roadmap, and hopefully people from this weekend also, they will be inspired. I told a little bit of my story last night, so hopefully they'll be inspired and like you said, build their own community or being a part of our community and keep the going. And
I love that. I'm really happy that you got a chance to do that, because I think it's super inspiring and it's great to see. And I think that's what people don't really realize is that, we're obviously based here in Ireland, but the little tendrils kind of reach out across the world. Myself and Colin, a couple of years back, we were part of the Startup Week in Lusaka, and we just zoomed in, and we were part of the kind of kickoff and a couple of workshops in there, just to kind of give a hand out, because they were running it for the first time. And then you see that kind of just taken off, and so many people there, and then the feedback that comes back to ourselves, and we learn from Lusaka and other places like this. And I think that's really so important, and having that diversity that's there as well, in terms of the voices that are being heard within this ecosystem, because we need this, like we absolutely do, from these grassroots community all the way up to the VC funds and everything that's there, and the supports that are there for entrepreneurs from all across the world. Like, I think this is going to be, it's so important, because we're going to have leaders here within this weekend that are just like you said, they're getting that little seed that's going to sit there in their minds, and it's going to be hard to deny it at that point, which is it's very exciting, to be honest. It's very cool.
Yeah, true. And I would just we can go on, I think, for hours.
Yeah, we better not.
But
We're going to bore people, or they're going to be like, oh,
I
yeah, we've had enough of this.
I know, but I would like to say thank you so much, for joining us for this call, and then to be able to give a little inspiration to the teams this weekend. And we'll share this video to everybody on social media and all the participants, and I hope they'll be inspired. And thank you so much. And I hope to see you soon.
Absolutely, absolutely. Best of luck to everyone and enjoy yourselves this weekend. Thanks, Leila.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.